Hare Krishna. Namaste. Chapter 5, entitled as Karma Sannyasa Yogam. Sloka 22. Yehi samsparṣeṣv bhogha dukkhayo-naya evate ādyantavantha kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. In 20th sloka, we saw one shouldn't rejoice or lament for either pleasantable or unpleasantable things. In the 21st sloka, we saw one must control the external senses. In 22nd sloka, that is today's sloka, we will learn how to control the external senses. That is, how can a person abandon material objects when he has been enjoying such external entities for a very long time, even beyond this lifetime? The answer that is going to be presented by Krishna is dosha darshana, to see the defects and faults in the pleasure that we get through the sense and sense objects. Let's see the word by word meaning. Samsparṣeṣv, by the contact between external objects and the senses. Bhogaye, enjoyments which are te, adi, beginning, anta, end, vantaha, subject to. Adi anta vantaha means have a beginning and an end. Besides, dukkha, distress, yonayaha, sources of, evahi, certainly. Dukkha yona evahi are only sources of sorrow, isn't it? Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, teshu, in those enjoyments, buddha, the intelligent person, a man of discrimination, na ramate, does not take delight or does not rejoice. The translation: an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So let's see what is wrong to get pleasure from the external object. Why we are so against on this one. Number one, they are anityam, which means they are not permanent. Therefore, the pleasure that one gets out of it will also be anityam, impermanent. Number two, the senses that wanted to enjoy these external objects are also anityam. The senses, the eyes, nose, ears, tongue, all these different senses, external senses that we have, they are also anityam. As long as we can see, we can enjoy. As long as we can taste, we can enjoy the good food. As long as we can hear, our ears are properly functioning, then we can enjoy good sounds. Therefore, number two is the senses that wanted to enjoy are also anityam. Number three, since both the external object that gives pleasure and the senses that derives pleasure from the external objects are anityam, we should understand that the enjoyment that comes out of the contact between the senses and sense object is also going to be anityam, impermanent. That happiness is also going to be impermanent. But one who has got the ātmani, the knowledge about soul, will not lament for the bodily changes, doesn't derive pleasure through the senses as they have expiry date. The body has a greater defects. The greatest defect is it has a birthday and a death day. During the initial stages of one's life, we all enjoy when our birthday is being celebrated. And sometimes children wait for the birthday to come. But as we get older and older and older, say closer to 50 or 60, one will become fearful when the birthday comes, as one knows that they are getting closer to the death day. They won't be there to celebrate the death day. No one will celebrate the death day. So that fear is always there. Jātyasya hi dhruvam mrityur, dhruvam janma mrityasya cha. So in Gita, 2nd chapter, we already saw this one, that anyone who was taken or anything that's taken birth is going to come to an end, death. And anything which comes to an end will be born again. Please refer or hear the chapter 2, 27 Sloka to refresh on this topic. We should know that all the enjoyments, which is called bhoga, based on the senses that comes in contact with the sense objects, which are also external. To enjoy the fragrance of the flower, the sense nose must be in contact with the flower. To enjoy the palatable food, the sense called tongue must touch the food, and so forth. All this material pleasure, laukika, it's called laukika pleasure, depends on the senses, whereas the non-material pleasure does not depend on any of these senses. These external objects that gives pleasure to the senses are anityam, impermanent, and the senses that enjoys these objects are also anityam, impermanent. They are only going to cause miseries, but unfortunately one falsely thinks they are cause of one's pleasure. Joy is the stage that comes when the stage of grief ends. And what is grief? It is a stage where joy comes to an end. That's how joy and grief are defined. When the joy ends, the grief starts, and when grief ends, joy starts. So we can see both joy and grief has a start and end point. Anything that which has start and end date or a point should be considered as anityam, impermanent. The senses has start and end point as well. Not only the sense objects, even the senses also have a start and end point. Therefore, the pleasure that we get from these objects, which has start and end point, and the senses, which has a start and end point, will also have a start and end point. It is not permanent. When we speak about the objects here, we are talking both living and non-living entities. So one might ask this question, what about Indra and Brahma? It appears that their enjoyment is longer than ours. They seem to be enjoying forever. Yes, if we compare our lifespan with their lifespan, then certainly their enjoyment are way much longer than ours. But we should know that doesn't mean it is nityam. The pleasure that they are having is eternal. Their pleasure is also anityam. It also has a start and end point, because they are also conditioned like how we are conditioned. Only thing is they are situated in a higher position, higher place. We will learn more about Brahma's life cycle when we get to chapter 8. Swami Vedanta Desika, in his Gita commentary called Tatparya Chandrika, mentions 5 dosha, 5 faults that are involved with the objects that the senses derives. Number 1, arjana dosham. Number 2, rakshana dosham. Number 3, kṣaya dosham. Number 4, bhoga dosham. And number 5, himsa dosham. Let's see what these 5 dosham are. Arjana dosham. The difficulties encountered in acquiring these objects. The troubles that one must undergo to earn money or any object that they want to enjoy, that cannot ever be described adequately. When we take our own lives, how much we must have struggled to come to certain stage in our life so that we can be happy, we can enjoy things. Many crossed over the ocean, many left the countries, leave their hometown, and many people do many things just so that they can derive some happiness by accumulating some objects, some wealth. Some also sacrifice their family members. So we can see there are a lot of difficulties involved to acquire, to get those objects that we want to enjoy. Arjana dosham. Rakshana dosham. Once we have what we wanted for our enjoyment, it could be money or anything, an object, anything, then comes the second dosham, that is to protect them, rakshana, to protect them, protect what we have earned. Even if we try to protect to our best, there are eyes that just watching on our objects, our wealth, what we have. Ehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkayonaya evate ādyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Namaste. Hare Krishna.